Weston McKennie's future at a crossroads. USMNT star wants to stay at Juventus. But is it the right fit? Analysis you saw. MC Kenny Juventus FEATURES. McKennie wants to stay at Juventus as his contract winds down, but after years of uncertainty, it's fair to ask whether that's the right move. Weston McKennie doesn't do much press. He is very much a get-your-head-down type of footballer. It fits the McKennie vibe, really. The USMNT midfielder has made it clear by actions, not words, that he will play pretty much anywhere if it means getting on a football pitch. That comes with a general idea of keeping quiet and letting his game do the talking. The mystery, then, isn't McKennie himself. It's the situation that surrounds him. In a frighteningly rare on-record appearance earlier this week, a charity event, not an official interview, McKennie said he would like to stay at Juventus beyond the expiration of his contract in June. "Turin is a huge part of my life, so I want to do everything I can for the people here," he said. "It's difficult to be here and make 200 appearances, but I did it, and hopefully there will be another 100. I hope to stay at Juventus. But I leave it all in my agent's hands." And that brings up one question. Why? McKennie goes through the same cycle every year. He is told that he can walk if the right offer comes in. He flirts with a few offers, some of which might pay him more handsomely, and then, inevitably, stays at Juventus. There is a bit of a will they, won't they period to follow, before a new manager inevitably decides that the American has a place somewhere, anywhere in his starting 11. McKennie has 200 appearances and 5 years into his Juve tenure, and little has changed. But now feels like a real crossroads. McKennie has spoken. His contract is up in 6 months. He is, as of January 1st, free to negotiate with other clubs. It is a World Cup year, and there is no apparent extension immediately on the table. Is this the version of McKennie that will play out the rest of his career? A useful utility guy who does a job for a struggling Juve? Or should he aspire for something a bit more? This contract will likely define the rest of McKennie's career. He simply has to get it right. McKennie is hard to quantify, largely because he doesn't have a natural position. In 22 appearances this season, the American has started across 5 different roles: defensive midfielder, center midfielder, attacking midfielder, right back and right wing back, in a variety of systems. Nominally, or at least traditionally, McKennie is a central midfielder, a box-to-box number 8 capable of doing a bit of everything. But that label only goes so far. Dating back to the tail end of last season, his versatility has stretched even further, with additional shifts at left back and left wing back. New manager Luciano Spalletti may be more of a 3-4-2-1 ideologue, but even he cannot seem to settle on one slot for his American talent, alternating between a right wing back and right attacking midfield spot. All of this means that stats do the American a bit of a disservice. His return of 2 assists in Serie A and 2 goals in the Champions League do little to reflect his attacking quality. Look at the defensive numbers, and you will see that McKennie wins a lot of headers, which makes sense because he's 6 feet tall but doesn't do loads else. His tackles, interceptions, and clearances numbers are all below average among full-backs, but they're far above among attacking midfielders. The point, more broadly, is that being good at everything, or at least able to do it all, makes McKennie harder to evaluate in a cold, hard world of data. The yearly cycle. There is a familiar cycle with McKennie, and it starts with skepticism. That tends to fade once managers see him up close. At Juventus, though, that evaluation process rarely has time to settle. Across 6 seasons, McKennie has played for 6 different coaches, none of whom lasted more than 1 full campaign, a level of turnover that makes long-term clarity almost impossible. Juve are a mess at the senior level, and after a financial scandal and the departure of numerous sporting directors, the Bianconeri haven't been able to bring in the right group of players, on a consistent basis, for years. Cristiano Ronaldo was, in fact, the epitome of the problem, a player signed for big money off little more than name value, and decimating their finances for the seasons to come. That makes it immensely difficult for a new coach to establish his favorites. And McKennie tends to be among the first to be told they can leave. Perhaps it's because he doesn't fit a mold. Most coaches like to come into jobs with a clear system, an idea of how they want to play. At Juve, the football should make for good watching, with the right player at every spot. McKennie has become a victim of his own versatility. What is McKennie's best position? There are so many variables here, but peering back at McKennie's younger days, it was clear that he had the potential to be an elite center midfielder. He impressed at Schalke and even in an ill-advised stint at Leeds. proving that he was capable of playing the position at a high level. Skill sets don't always have to translate into longevity, of course. There are plenty of examples in which players develop into Swiss Army knives as they age. The most obvious example, and this is a good comparison for McKennie, is James Milner. He was an elite wide midfielder at Leeds, but by his late 20s was able to play a bit of everywhere. These days, he is the epitome of versatility. Plenty of other midfielders, too, have played at other positions. Steven Gerrard was a right back for a while. Federico Valverde, despite so obviously being a perfect center midfielder, has plugged holes here and there. Yet both of those two players settled by their mid-20s. McKennie is 27 now, and perhaps needs to find somewhere that will allow him to do just that. Ideal landing spot? But who will take him? And what's the right fit? There were rumors last year that FC Cincinnati were interested in him, and willing to pay a pretty penny in compensation. MLS would make some sense. It is, no doubt, a step down in quality from Serie A. But McKennie could comfortably demand $10 million per season, play on home soil, and would immediately be among the best players in the league. That seems a safe bet. Yet there is a sense that an MLS move, with all due respect to what is ever improving as a competition, may be a few years in his future. Now, the focus might remain on Europe. There were sparse links to Arsenal in the past, while Aston Villa have also cropped up here and there. Villa might make sense, especially if they can coax him to Birmingham on a free transfer. He would seem an ideal fit for manager Unai Emery, who values high-energy midfielders, and will need a succession plan for the excellent yet aging John McGinn. A Premier League return might also be enticing. Villa are on track to play in Europe next season, and find themselves unable to spend big due to their flirtations with restrictive profit and sustainability regulations. They will need to improve on the cheap. What better fit than someone on a free? Yet other clubs in Europe could want his services. There is always a market for good center midfielders, while McKennie's resume at Juventus speaks for itself. Spanish football would be an imperfect fit, but a Bundesliga return makes sense, too. Pochettino, the World Cup, and what's next? This will be a tricky summer for transfers.